Shadows of yesterday Rohan Kapoor straightened his custom-tailored Armani sherwani, the gold embroidery catching the light as he adjusted the collar for the 10th time. Through the window of his preparation room, he could see the 500 guests filling the gardens of the Palace Hotel, Mumbai's most exclusive venue. Photographers jockeyed for position, celebrity guests posed for pictures, and business titans mingled with politicians. Everyone who mattered was here. 20 minutes, sir, his assistant Vikram said, tablet in hand. The Oberoi are asking if you need anything. Rohan shook his head, forcing a smile. His soon-to-be in-laws had spared no expense for their only daughter's wedding. Nisha deserved nothing less. She was brilliant, beautiful, and came from the right family. A perfect match for the founder of Pinnacle Tech, India's fastest-growing AI company. Their marriage would unite two powerful families and make headlines across Asia. So why did his chest feel so tight? I need some air, Rohan said, loosening his collar. Just 5 minutes. He slipped out the back entrance, away from the crowds, finding a quiet path around the decorative pond. The late afternoon sun bathed everything in gold, making the water lilies glow. He'd built his company from nothing. A boy from a middle-class neighborhood in Pune, who now commanded boardrooms and appeared on magazine covers. This wedding was the final piece of the life he'd constructed. A figure stood at the edge of the water, partially hidden behind flowering plumeria trees. Something about her posture, the slight tilt of her head, the way she stood with one foot slightly behind the other, sent a jolt through Rohan. He knew that silhouette before he even saw her face. Aditi? She turned, surprise evident in her wide eyes. Rohan, I didn't mean to. I should go. But he was already walking toward her, drawn by a force he'd buried years ago. Aditi Sharma, his best friend from engineering college, his confidant through those brutal early startup years, the woman whose quiet strength had kept him going when everyone said he would fail. What are you doing here? He stopped a few feet away, drinking in the sight of her. She wore a simple teal sari, no jewelry except small pearl earrings. So different from the elaborate fashions inside, yet she outshone them all. I came to wish you well. She smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. I'm in Mumbai for work. I thought I'd just see you from afar. I didn't mean to intrude. You could never intrude. The words came automatically. 7 years since they'd last spoken, yet it felt like yesterday. You look successful? She gestured vaguely at everything around them. It all worked out, just like you dreamed. The words hung between them. Indeed, everything had worked out exactly as planned, except for the one thing he hadn't planned for, how the success would feel hollow without her there to share it. And you? The hospital in Dharamshala? He'd kept tabs on her, though he'd never admitted it to anyone. Still there. Still helping people who need it most. Her eyes softened. I'm directing the pediatric program now. Of course she was. While he'd been building his empire, she'd been saving lives in the mountains, just as she'd always wanted. A text buzzed on his phone. Vikram. Sir, 10 minutes. Family photos starting. You should go, Aditi said softly. They're waiting for you. Why? Did you really come, Aditi? The question escaped before he could stop it. She looked away, toward the setting sun. Some doors should stay closed, Rohan. You have a beautiful bride waiting. I just wanted to see that you're happy. Am I? He whispered. More to himself than to her. Before she could answer, his brother Arjun's voice called from behind them. Rohan, everyone's looking for you. Aditi stepped back. Goodbye, Rohan. Congratulations. As she turned to leave, something fell from her purse. A small, worn book. He recognized it instantly. The Alchemist. He'd given it to her on her 21st birthday with an inscription inside, "To finding our treasure together." He picked it up, their fingers brushing as she reached for it. The contact was electric, sending memories flooding back. Late nights studying, her laughter during monsoon rains, the day he'd almost kissed her before losing his courage. "You kept it," he said, his voice rough. "Some things you can't let go of." She took the book and walked away. Disappearing among the wedding guests, Rohan stood frozen, the weight of a decade of unspoken words crushing his chest. In 10 minutes, he would marry Nisha Oberoi. Everything was in place, except his heart, which was walking away with a woman in a teal sari. Silent echoes. The string quartet played softly as Rohan mechanically greeted guests alongside his parents. His mind wasn't on the congratulatory handshakes or the elaborate floral arrangements that transformed the venue into a fragrant paradise. Instead, he was 8 years in the past, sitting on the rooftop of their engineering college hostel. "You're insane, Rohan Kapoor." Aditi had laughed, her eyes reflecting the stars above Pune's skyline. "You really think you can build an AI system that will revolutionize healthcare?" "Not alone," he'd said, bumping her shoulder with his, "with the brilliant Dr. Aditi Sharma by my side." She'd rolled her eyes, but smiled. "I haven't even started medical school yet. Details, details." He waved dismissively. "We're a team, remember? Your medical knowledge, my programming skills, we'll change the world." The memory dissolved as Nisha's father, industrialist Vivek Oberoi, clapped him on the back. "There he is! The man of the hour!" Rohan smiled automatically. "Thank you for everything, sir. The venue is spectacular." "Only the best for my little girl," Vivek boomed. "She always gets what she wants." And Nisha had wanted Rohan from the moment they'd met at a tech conference in Singapore. Smart, strategic, and stunning, she'd pursued him with the same determination she applied to her executive position at her father's conglomerate. Their relationship made perfect sense on paper, two ambitious people with complementary business interests and compatible lifestyles. 5 minutes, Vikram whispered, appearing at his side. Rohan nodded, excusing himself to take a moment alone, before the ceremony. In the preparation room, he found himself staring at his reflection, but seeing only shadows of the past. They quote been inseparable throughout college. Aditi, the scholarship student from a teacher's family in a small town near Shimla. Rohan, the middle-class boy with expensive dreams. They studied together, built prototypes together, entered competitions together. When his father suffered a heart attack in their final year, it was Aditi who'd sat with him through nights at the hospital. When her mother was diagnosed with cancer, he'd helped her research treatments and accompanied her to doctor appointments. "We take care of each other," she'd said once. "That's what matters most." The door opened, and his mother entered, resplendent in a crimson sari. "Beta, it's time." She paused, studying his face. "Rohan, are you well?" He forced a smile. "Just nervous, Ma." She approached, adjusting his collar with practiced hands. "Marriage is a big step, but Nisha is a good match. Your father and I are very proud." "I know." He hesitated. "Ma, do you remember Aditi?" His mother's hands stilled momentarily. "Of course. Such a sweet girl. She came to the hospital every day when your father was ill. She's here today." Understanding flickered across his mother's face. "I see." She searched his eyes. "Rohan, sometimes in life we must choose between what is expected and what is true." Before he could respond, music swelled from outside, signaling the ceremony's beginning. The fracture had begun gradually. His startup had gained traction just as Aditi entered medical school. 18-hour workdays for him, grueling study schedules for her. Still, they'd made time for weekly dinners, for long phone calls. Then came the investors. You need to be in Mumbai, they'd insisted. You need to network to be seen. So he'd moved. They'd promised to visit each other monthly, but his trips kept getting postponed. Her calls went to voicemail as he sat in meetings with potential partners. I understand, she'd always said. Your dream is happening, Rohan. I'm happy for you. The distance grew. His company expanded. She buried herself in her studies. Then came the night that changed everything. He'd finally visited her after 3 months apart. They'd walked through campus, the tension between them palpable. I've been offered a fellowship, she'd said quietly. In rural medicine, in Dharamshala. That's far, he'd managed, already, calculating how much harder visits would become. Yes. Her eyes had been sad but determined. I think it's for the best. What does that mean? He'd stopped walking, suddenly afraid. It means we're heading in different directions, Rohan. You're building your empire. I want to help people who have nothing. I can't ask you to slow down for me. I never said you were asking that. You didn't have to. She'd touched his face, gently. Some dreams can't coexist. He should have fought harder. Should have told her that no dream mattered without her. Instead, he'd nodded stiffly, pride and ambition clouding his judgment. 2 weeks later, she'd left for the mountains without saying goodbye. He'd thrown himself into his work, building Pinnacle into a billion-dollar company, collecting accolades and investment capital, filling the void with success. Until Nisha had entered his life, offering partnership without the messy emotions that had made losing Aditi so painful. Rohan. His father appeared at the door. Everyone is waiting. He followed his father to the mandap, the wedding altar adorned with marigolds and roses. Guests watched expectantly as he took his place. The priest arranged the sacred items for the ceremony. And then the music changed. From the opposite end of the garden, Nisha appeared, a vision in red and gold. She was objectively beautiful, confident, perfect for the life he'd built. But as she took step after step toward him, all Rohan could see was a teal sari and a worn copy of The Alchemist. All he could hear was a voice from the past. Some dreams can't coexist. He wasn't sure he believed that anymore. The moment of truth. The priest began chanting Sanskrit mantras, his voice rising and falling in ancient rhythms as Nisha took her place beside Rohan. Her henned hands were steady, her smile confident beneath her veil. She knew exactly what she wanted, and in moments, it would be hers. Rohan, S. brother Arjun, handed him the garland of flowers to place around Nisha's neck, the first ritual of many that would bind them together. The guests watched expectantly, phones raised to capture the perfect moment. But Rohan's fingers trembled. Through the crowd, he caught a glimpse of Teal, Aditi, standing at the very back, half hidden behind a pillar. Their eyes met across the distance, and suddenly he was drowning in memories. What do you want most in life? She'd asked him once, as they sat beside a stream during a rare day away from studies. To build something meaningful, he'd answered without hesitation. Something that helps people, and to never worry about money like my parents did. She'd nodded thoughtfully. And happiness? Where does that fit? Success brings happiness, he'd said confidently. Does it? Her question had hung between them, unanswered. Rohan? Nisha whispered, her eyes questioning. He realized he'd been standing motionless, the garland suspended in his hands. The priest cleared his throat. Cameras flashed. His parents exchanged worried glances. He looked at Nisha. Truly looked at her, perhaps for the first time. She was extraordinary, brilliant, ambitious, beautiful. Any man would be fortunate to call her his wife. But in her eyes, he saw something he'd been avoiding. She wanted the successful entrepreneur, the man on magazine covers, the social media darling. She wanted the carefully constructed image he'd created. Aditi had known him when he had nothing but dreams and determination. She'd believed in him before anyone else did. "I can't," he whispered, so softly only Nisha could hear. Her smile froze. "What?" The garland slipped from his fingers, landing softly on the altar between them. "I'm sorry, Nisha. I can't do this." The music stopped abruptly. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Nisha quote. His father half rose from his seat. "What's happening?" Rohan turned to face the assembled guests, his heart hammering. His gaze found his parents, his mother's eyes filled with concern, his father's with confusion. Then he looked at Nisha, who stood perfectly still, her expression unreadable behind her veil. "I owe you all an explanation," he said, his voice gaining strength. "Especially you, Nisha." He took a deep breath. "I've spent years building a life that looked perfect from the outside. The right company, the right address, the right connections." He gestured around them. "And now, the right marriage. But standing here, I've realized something important. I've been building someone else's dream." Gasps and whispers filled the air. Cameras clicked frantically. "Nisha, you deserve someone who loves you completely, who chooses you for you, not because you fit perfectly into a life plan." He looked directly at her. "You're remarkable, and I respect you too much to give you anything less than truth." Her lips pressed into a thin line, but she remained silent. Rohan turned back to the guests. "I made a mistake years ago. I chose success over what truly mattered. I let someone go because I thought my dreams were more important than us." His eyes found Aditi, who stood frozen, her hand pressed to her mouth. "I don't know if it's too late, but I know I can't start a marriage living a lie." He looked back at Nisha. "I'm truly sorry." For a long moment, no one moved. The silence was deafening. Hundreds of people holding their breath, waiting for what would happen next. Then Nisha did something no one expected. She laughed, a short, surprised sound that cut through the tension like a knife. She removed her veil, revealing not anger, but relief. "Well," she said, her voice carrying clearly, "at least one of us had the courage to say it." Rohan stared at her, uncomprehending. "Did you think I didn't know?" she asked quietly, stepping closer. "You've been going through the motions for months. Both of us have." Her father stood now. "Nisha, what are you saying?" She turned to him, chin raised. "I'm saying that I deserve better than a man who's in love with someone else, Papa. And frankly, so does he." She faced Rohan again. "We would have had a perfectly adequate marriage, made perfectly adequate children, built a perfectly adequate life." Her smile turned genuine. "But I've recently realized that adequate isn't enough for me either." Rohan stood stunned. "I never meant to hurt you." "I know." She touched his arm briefly. "Go. Find her." He glanced toward where Aditi had been standing. But the space was empty. "If you hurry," Nisha said, "you might catch her." For a heartbeat, Rohan hesitated, aware of hundreds of eyes on him, of camera phones recording what would undoubtedly become viral content within minutes. Nisha rolled her eyes. "Seriously, Rohan, this is your movie moment. Don't mess it up." That broke the spell. With a grateful nod to Nisha, he stepped down from the mandap and began moving through the crowd. People parted before him, some outraged, others captivated by the unfolding drama. His mother caught his arm as he passed. "Be sure," she whispered. "I am," he replied. For the first time in years, he broke into a run as he cleared the garden, ignoring the calls behind him. The hotel lobby was crowded with late arrivals and curious onlookers. No sign of Aditi. Outside, The evening air was thick with monsoon humidity. Cars lined the driveway, guests still arriving, unaware of the chaos inside Dot. And then he saw her, walking quickly toward the main road, her teal sari billowing slightly in the breeze. "Aditi!" he called, running after her. Dot. She stopped, turning slowly. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "What are you doing, Rohan?" He stopped before her, suddenly unsure what to say. 8 years of silence lay between them, of choices made, and paths diverged. "I let you go once," he said finally. "I won't make that mistake again. Your wedding is not happening." Her eyes widened. "Because of me?" "Because of me," he corrected. "Because I finally realized that success means nothing if you're not building the right dream." A taxi approached, slowing as the driver noticed them. "This is insane," Aditi said, but she didn't move away. "Probably," Rohan agreed, smiling for what felt like the first time in years. "But I'm tired of being sensible." The taxi stopped beside them. "Where are you going?" he asked. She hesitated. "My flight back to Dharamshala is tomorrow morning." "Have dinner with me tonight," he said. "Just talk. That's all I'm asking." Behind them, commotion spilled from the hotel as guests began to leave. The wedding clearly over before it began, Aditi looked at the chaos, then back at Rohan. "You've upended everything. You realize that, right?" "I do." He held out his hand. "The question is, was it worth it?" After a moment's hesitation, she placed her hand in his. "I guess we'll find out." Ripples of courage. The restaurant was small and unassuming, tucked away in a quiet corner of Kolaba, far from the five-star establishments where Rohan was usually photographed. The owner, an elderly Parsi gentleman, had seated them in a private alcove with a view of the Arabian Sea. "You look exactly the same," Aditi said, breaking the silence that had fallen after they ordered. Rohan shook his head. "I look like someone trying to be what everyone expected." He had removed his wedding sherwani, leaving just the simple kurta underneath. His hair, carefully styled for the ceremony, was now slightly disheveled from running his hands through it. "What happened back there, Rohan?" she asked. "Really?" He traced the condensation on his water glass. "I saw you, and suddenly everything became clear. I've been sleepwalking for years." "You built an empire. That's hardly sleepwalking." "An empire of what? Apps that make people spend more time on their phones? AI that helps corporations maximize profits?" He shook his head. "Remember our original dream? Technology that would help doctors reach patients in remote areas?" Aditi's expression softened. "I remember. We were going to change healthcare in rural India." "You did that. I got sidetracked." Their food arrived. Simple, home-style dishes that reminded Rohan of late-night meals during their college years. For a while, they ate in companionable silence. "You haven't asked about Nisha," Aditi said, finally. Rohan set down his fork. "She knew. About my feelings, about my doubts, maybe before I did." "Is she okay?" "Surprisingly, yes. She said—" He paused, remembering Nisha's words. "She said she deserved better than a man who's in love with someone else." Aditi's eyes widened. "And are you? In love with someone else?" The question hung between them like a tangible thing. "I never stopped loving you," he said simply. "I just buried it under ambition and pride." She looked away toward the darkening sea. 8 years is a long time, Rohan." "I know. I'm not asking for anything. I just couldn't live a lie anymore." His phone buzzed incessantly. Calls from Vikram, from business associates, from friends who'd witnessed the wedding debacle. He silenced it without looking. "What happens now?" Aditi asked. "Your life is here, your company, your family." Honestly, I don't know. He smiled ruefully. For the first time in years, I don't have a 5-year plan. That doesn't sound like the Rohan Kapoor I knew. Maybe I'm finally becoming the Rohan Kapoor I was meant to be. Across the city, in a suite at the Palace Hotel, Nisha Oberoi stood on the balcony, still wearing her wedding lehenga, a glass of champagne in hand. Behind her, her parents argued with wedding planners and publicists about damage control. Nisha, "Please be reasonable," her mother pleaded. "We need to release a statement." "Say whatever you want, mother." Nisha sipped her champagne. "Say the wedding was canceled by mutual agreement. Say I came to my senses. Say aliens abducted the groom. I really don't care." Her father approached, his face flushed with anger and humiliation. "How can you be so calm? Do you have any idea what this will do to our reputation? To our business relationships? Is that all you care about?" Nisha turned to face him. "Not whether your daughter was about to marry a man who didn't love her?" "Of course we care," her mother interjected. "But surely this could have been handled privately." Nisha laughed. "Like the private conversations I tried to have with both of you for months? When I told you I wasn't sure about this marriage? When I said Rohan seemed distant?" Her parents exchanged glances. "We thought it was just pre-wedding jitters," her father said defensively. "No, you thought about the merger between Pinnacle Tech and Oberoi Industries, about the headlines, about the grandchildren who would unite two business empires." She set down her glass. "Neither of you asked what I wanted." "And what do you want?" her mother asked, suddenly looking tired. Nisha gazed out at the Mumbai skyline, lights twinkling against the night sky. "I want what Rohan just did. The courage to choose my own path." Her phone chimed with a message. She glanced at it, a small smile playing at her lips. "Who's that?" her father demanded. "Tarun," she replied casually. "Your cardiology professor from London. What does he want?" "To know if I'm okay." She typed a quick reply. "And to remind me that his research fellowship in Mumbai starts next month." Her mother gasped. "Nisha, you haven't been—" "No, mother. Unlike Rohan, I've been painfully faithful to a relationship that should have ended months ago." She slipped off her heavy wedding jewelry. "But now I'm free to pursue what actually makes me happy." "A doctor?" Her father looked aghast. "You would leave the company for a doctor?" "Not just any doctor. The pioneer of an artificial heart valve that could save millions of lives." She smiled genuinely for the first time that day. "Actually, I was thinking Pinnacle's healthcare division could fund his research. It would be excellent PR after today's excitement." Her father stared at her in disbelief. Then, surprisingly, he began to laugh. "You're still thinking like an Oberoi." "Of course I am, Papa. That will never change." Back in the restaurant, Rohan's phone rang for the 20th time. This time he glanced at it. "It's Arjun," he said apologetically. "My brother. I should probably take this." Aditi nodded and he stepped outside. "Are you insane?" Arjun demanded without preamble. "Possibly," Rohan admitted. "The board is in panic. Investors are calling. There are reporters outside your apartment." "I'm sorry for the chaos, but I'm not sorry for what I did." A pause. "Is she worth it? This doctor of yours?" Rohan looked through the window at Aditi, who was gazing out at the sea, her profile illuminated by candlelight. "It's not about worth, Arjun. It's about truth. I've been living a life that looked right, but felt wrong. And now? Now I want to build something that matters. Remember our original mission statement? Technology that heals." Another pause. "I remember, before the investors redirected us toward more profitable markets. I want to go back to that, to use what we've built for what we originally intended. The board will fight you." "Let them. I still own controlling interest." He could almost hear his brother smiling. So the real Rohan Kapoor finally shows up. About time. After hanging up, Rohan returned to find Aditi putting on her shawl. "You have to go," he said, disappointed. "My flight is early, and I have patients waiting." She stood. "This was unexpected. Aditi, I meant what I said. I'm not asking you to upend your life. I just couldn't marry someone else without telling you the truth." She studied him, her eyes searching his. "And what will you do now?" "Rebuild, but this time on a foundation of truth." He took a step toward her. "I'd like to show you something before you leave, if you have time." She hesitated, then nodded. An hour later, they stood in Rohan's private office at Pinnacle headquarters. The space was minimalist and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "This is impressive," Aditi said, taking in the panoramic view. "It's just a building." Rohan tapped on his computer, bringing up a presentation on the large wall screen. "This is what I wanted to show you." The screen filled with images of a medical diagnostic app, specifically designed for rural healthcare workers. "This is the project I've been working on in my spare time. It uses AI to help paramedics and rural doctors diagnose conditions with limited equipment." Aditi stepped closer. Her professional interest piqued. "This looks like our college project, the one we designed together." He smiled. "I never forgot it. I've been developing it quietly using my own funds." She turned to him, surprised. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wasn't sure I'd ever have the courage to launch it. It didn't fit Pinnacle's profit-focused mission." He switched to another screen, showing hospital locations across remote parts of India. "But now I'm thinking it could be Pinnacle's new direction." "That's a dramatic shift." "Yes." He faced her directly. "Aditi, I'm not asking you to leave your work or your life, but I am asking if you'd be willing to consult on this project, help make it everything we once dreamed it could be." She was quiet for a long moment. "Is this because of what happened today? A dramatic gesture?" "No. It's because I finally remembered who I wanted to be." He took her hand gently. "And because some dreams can coexist if we're brave enough to try." Bridges over time. 6 months later, Aditi walked through the doors of Dharamshala Regional Hospital, her mind already on the day's patients. The mountain air was crisp with early winter, and the Himalayan peaks stood sentinel against a cloudless sky. "Dr. Sharma," a voice called. She turned to find Priya, her chief resident, hurrying toward her. "The new diagnostic tablets arrived this morning," Priya said excitedly. "All 20 of them." "Already?" Aditi checked her watch. "The training isn't scheduled until next week. Mr. Kapoor is here to deliver them personally." Aditi's heart quickened, as it always did at the mention of his name. "Where is he?" "Setting up in the conference room." Priya's eyes sparkled with poorly concealed curiosity. Over the past months, the hospital staff had watched with interest as the famous tech entrepreneur made regular visits to their remote facility. Aditi nodded, trying to appear professional. "I'll be there shortly. Please make sure the staff who will be using the tablets are notified." As Priya hurried away, Aditi took a moment to collect herself. 6 months of careful collaboration, of rebuilding trust through professional respect and shared purpose. 6 months of rediscovering the friendship that had once been the cornerstone of her life. 6 months of trying not to fall in love all over again. The conference room was a humble space by urban standards, but today it hummed with excitement. Hospital staff gathered around tables where sleek tablets displayed the Pinnacle Healthcare logo, and there was Rohan, demonstrating the app's features to a group of nurses. He looked different than he had in Mumbai. More relaxed in simple jeans and a sweater, his hair longer, his smile more genuine. He spotted her and his face lit up. "Dr. Sharma," he called, gesturing her over. Perfect timing. We were just discussing the pediatric diagnostic protocols you developed. She joined the group, seamlessly picking up the technical explanation. This was the rhythm they'd established. Professional, focused, deliberately maintaining boundaries while they navigated what their relationship could become. Later, after the demonstrations concluded and the staff dispersed, they found themselves alone in the conference room. "The interface improvements are excellent," she said, scrolling through the app. "The visual diagnostic tool will be particularly useful in our satellite clinics. Your team's feedback was instrumental." He leaned against the table. "The board is impressed with the early results. We're expanding the program to 50 more rural hospitals next quarter." "That's wonderful news." A comfortable silence fell between them, filled with unspoken questions. "Have you had lunch?" he asked finally. She checked her watch. "I have 30 minutes before my next patient." "The cafeteria?" he suggested. She nodded, and they walked together through the hospital corridors. Staff members greeted them warmly, already accustomed to Rohan's frequent presence. "How long are you staying this time?" Aditi asked as they collected their food. "Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about that." He led her to a quiet table by the window, where the mountains were visible in the distance. "Pinnacle is opening a development office in Dharamshala." She paused, fork halfway to her mouth. "Here? Why?" "To be closer to the healthcare workers using our technology, to develop solutions based on direct observation rather than second-hand reports." He met her eyes. "And because I've realized something important these past months." "What's that?" "That I'm happier here, working on something meaningful, than I ever was in my penthouse in Mumbai." Her pulse quickened. "Rohan, I'm not pressuring you," he said quickly. "I know we've been rebuilding carefully. I respect the boundaries we've set, but I've purchased a small house near the development center. I'll be living here at least half the time." She set down her fork. "You're moving to Dharamshala?" "Partially, yes." His expression was earnest. "The company doesn't need me physically present in Mumbai anymore. We've restructured, refocused our mission. Arjun is handling the business operations brilliantly." "And Nisha? Have you heard from her?" A smile touched his lips. "She's engaged, actually, to that cardiologist she was telling me about, and Pinnacle is funding his research as she suggested." Aditi shook her head, amazed. "You two would have been terrible together." "We really would," he laughed. "We're much better as business allies." They finished their meal discussing the upcoming training sessions and expansion plans. Professional, safe. As they walked back toward the pediatric ward, Rohan stopped. "Aditi, there's something I want to give you." He reached into his bag and pulled out a package. She unwrapped it to find a leather-bound notebook. Opening it, she discovered it was filled with handwritten notes, diagrams, and code fragments. "What is this?" "My original notes for the diagnostic app, from college." He touched the page gently. "Look at the date." She flipped to the front page. The date was from their 3rd year of engineering school. But what caught her eye was the title, Aditi's Vision. "You named it after me? Even then?" "It was always your idea. I just had the technical skills to help make it happen." He turned to a page where he'd sketched out a user interface. In the margin was a note. "A says simpler is better. Trust her instincts." Emotion tightened her throat. "You kept this all these years." "I did. Even when I was heading in the wrong direction, some part of me held on to the right one." He took a deep breath. "Aditi, I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give, but I want you to know that I'm here, really here, not just passing through." Before she could respond, her pager beeped. She checked it with an apologetic smile. "Emergency in pediatrics, I have to go." "Of course, go." She hesitated, then quickly squeezed his hand before hurrying away. That evening, as darkness fell over the mountains, Aditi walked the path to her small house on the hospital grounds. The air was cold now, stars emerging in a velvet sky. The notebook Rohan had given her was tucked safely in her bag. To her surprise, a figure sat on her front steps, Rohan, bundled against the chill, 2 cups of tea steaming beside him. "I hope it's okay that I'm here," he said as she approached. "The tea might be cold by now." "It's okay." She sat beside him, accepting a cup. "How did you know where I live?" "Priya might have mentioned it." He looked sheepish. "I wanted to apologize for putting you on the spot today." "You didn't?" She sipped the tea, which was still warm. "I just needed time to think." "And have you? Thought?" She nodded, gazing at the stars. "Do you remember that night on the college roof when you asked me what happiness looked like to me? You said it was about purpose, about making a difference. And connection," she added softly, "about having someone who understands your heart." They sat in silence, their breath visible in the cold air. "I was angry with you for a long time," she admitted, "for choosing ambition over us, for not fighting for what we had. I deserved that anger. But watching you these past months, seeing you redirect your company, recommit to our original vision, put yourself on the line, I realized something." She turned to face him. "You never actually left that rooftop. Part of you was always the boy with the big dreams about helping people. A part that got buried for too long." She nodded. "We can't go back to who we were at 22. Too much has happened. We've both changed." His expression fell slightly, but he nodded. "I understand. But," she continued, reaching for his hand, "maybe we can build something new. Something that honors both who we were and who we've become." Hope flickered in his eyes. "What are you saying?" "That I'd like to have dinner with you tomorrow. Not to discuss the project or the hospital, just us." His smile was like sunrise. "I'd like that very much." "And Rohan?" She leaned closer. "Next time, don't wait on my steps in the cold. I gave Priya my spare key months ago when I thought I'd locked myself out. You could have waited inside?" He laughed. "That would have been presumptuous." Says the man who halted his wedding and redirected a billion-dollar company. Fair point. He stood, offering his hand to help her up. "Some risks are worth taking." As they stood facing each other in the starlight, the distance between them, years, choices, separate paths, seemed to collapse into a single moment of possibility. "I should go," he said reluctantly. "You've had a long day." She nodded, but neither moved. "Rohan?" "Yes." "Some dreams can coexist," she said softly, echoing his words from months before. "If we're brave enough to try." And as the Himalayan night wrapped around them, she took the step that bridged their past to their future.